In this video, we're going to have a look at EVPN VPWS. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to use PE3 and PE4, sorry, PE1 and PE4. Reason being is, in this scenario, we only have R1 and R2 that want to connect with each other. So we don't need to use EVPN native or EVPN IRB because we're only going to have a point-to-point connectivity between the two customer edge devices. So we're going to jump onto the command line and have a look at how this is done. Let's bring that up. Okay, so first thing we need to do is to jump onto PE1 and go into config mode. Wonderful. Okay, so we need to create our service instance. So we do interface gig 1 and we do service instance 100 Ethernet, and we're going to do the encapsulation as default. Fantastic. All right, so now that's been done, what we need to do, we need to now go in and do our layer 2 VPN and EVPN. You'll notice that this is very similar to the other configurations we've done, like EVPN native. And we need to do our replication type as ingress. And we need to give our router ID. And let's do that as loopback 0. Fantastic. Let's get out of that. Okay, so what we need to do now, we need to create our instance. Again, very much exactly the same as what we've done before. So layer 2 VPN, EVPN instance. And we're going to use 100 again. Now, previously we was using VLAN based, but what we're going to use now is point to point, because as we can see, it's virtual private wire service. That's what it's actually for. So let's do point to point. Okay, so slightly different now is that we actually have to put a VPWS context. And the context is just the name of the actual context that we're doing. Now it's locally significant, so it doesn't have to be the same anywhere, you know, in any the other device you're connecting to, and it's not referenced anywhere else in the actual configuration either. So let's just call it cust1. Wonderful. Okay, so now what we need to do, we need to set our service targets. So the service targets are used, you know, because unfortunately, unlike the other versions of EVPN, we need to specify the inbound direction and the outbound direction. So let's do our service target, and you know, the numbers are arbitrary, so you can use whatever you want for your target and your source, but they have to match on both sides. But when I say match, so let's say the service target here, let's do 22, because that's going to go to that'll be going to the other device. The source is let's say 11. So these are, well, like I'm just using the loopbacks of the customer devices, but that is not, don't get me wrong, that is not actually what we're doing. They're just arbitrary numbers, just so in my head I can keep up where I am. When I configure the other device, I will put the service target as 11 and the source as 22, but you could put any numbers here. So I could put, actually let's just do that, why not, let's just do just in case I've been confusing you with that, because it did sound a bit confusing the way I came out of it. Let's do service target 70 and source 80. That's got nothing to do with anything else, you know, in any of our configurations we've previously done. we have no 70 or 80 anywhere. So let's do that. Service target 70 and the source 80. Okay. All right, so now what we need to do our member. You know what's actually in this, and it's going to be our Giga Ethernet 1, and it's going to be the service instance 100. Fantastic. All right, so that is the basic configuration. It's not difficult. What we need to do now is to set up our BGP, and of course, like what we've done before, we are connecting to the root reflector, so that's cool. So let's do a router BGP 65000, and let's do your Jest family layer 2 VPN EVPN, and our neighbor is going to be 7.7.7.7. Now let's activate that, and okay, so we've activated that. Let's send the community extended, and let's set the next hop as self. So next hop self. Okay, so that is the entire configuration done on this device. Okay, let's do a show run. Pirate best begin. Yes, layer 2. All right, let's have a little look. Okay, so we have our layer 2 EVPN. Our replication type is ingress. We got our instance 100 point to point. Our context. Okay, so we used 70 and 80. So the target was 70, the source was 80. So in the other router, then the target will be 80 and the source will be 70. Actually, give me 2 seconds. I need to make a note of that because I will forget that by the time I get there. And we've got our Giga Ethernet 1 service instance 100 in there as well. All right, and of course we've done our BGP. So let's go on to router 4. And let's go to conft mode, and let's do interface gig 1. Let's do service instance 100 Ethernet, encapsulation default, and let's get out of that. Brilliant. Okay, so let's do our layer 2 VPN EVPN, out of the interface first. Layer 2 VPN EVPN, and replication ingress, and router ID is loopback 0. And it's okay. Now let's do our instance. So layer 2 VPN EVPN instance 100, and again point to point. Fantastic. Now again we do our VPWS context, and I'm just going to call it the same, cast 1. You don't have to, it is only locally significant. Okay, and now we do our service target. All right, let's go back, remember that. So service target will be 80, source 70. 80, source 70, and add the member in there. Giga Ethernet 1, service instance 100. Brilliant. Okay, now let's do our BGP configuration. So router BGP 65000, address family layer 2 VPN EVPN, neighbor 7.7.7.7, activate. And send community extended, and next hop self. Wonderful. Okay, so what we need to do now, we need to jump onto the root reflector, and we need to add in the address family layer 2 VPN EVPN, and we need to do the neighbors for both of these. So let's jump on to that and go enable conf t do show run section BGP, because I'm going to copy out the addresses on there. So let's do router BGP 65000, address family layer 2 VPN EVPN. Okay, so we're going to do router 1, and router 4. I could have just copied both of those, but you know. Okay, there we go, and that is done. Wonderful. Okay, so our neighborships should now be up. Okay, let's do a couple of verification commands and see what we can find with this. So let's do a on P1, let's do a show IP BGP layer 2 VPN EVPN. Okay, so there we go. We can see the EVPN is working. We are receiving type 1 messages only. Now type 1 messages, as we know, they're just a MAC. That's all we're receiving, so that's great. There was something else we can see. Yep, we can. It's the peer, isn't it, that I want to see. So okay, doesn't like that one. My bad. Okay, so let's do a show layer 2 VPN EVPN VPWS, and let's do our summary. All right, so we can see here that the VPWS is up and running. We can see that it's set to a point-to-point, which is as it should be. Total virtual circuits is 1. It's up. We can see that we are part of the BGP ASN 6500 and our router ID. Yeah, it has to be summary, unfortunately. Okay, so that's fine. So the question is now, do we have any connectivity between R1 and R2? So let's have a little look at that. So let's jump onto R1. Well, showing us that a neighborship's come up. Show IP OSPF neighbor. And there we go. We do have a neighborship only with R2, so that's good. Let's do a show IP route OSPF. Okay, and we look like we've learned the loop back with that. Now we could change the network type if we wanted to point-to-point, but you know, it's not, I suppose it's not really worth it, you know, because of course what we were doing was EVPN VPWS, not OSPF, but if we wanted to, we could do that. Let's just double check that we can actually ping. So let's do ping 22.22.22.22. There we go, sweet. Okay, so VPWS is relatively easy to set up. It's not bad. Again, it's layer 2 only. There you go. I hope you've enjoyed that that video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.